What if I told you there's a government agency spending your tax dollars to overthrow governments, including potentially our own? Not in some distant dictatorship, but right here in America. $250 million funneled to one man's network. Riots organized with humanitarian funds. Congressional oversight blocked because, quote, people will die.
You said people gonna die?
If anyone finds out, what happens next? Even the CIA was locked out of the investigation. Now, this is not a spy novel. This is actually happening right now with your money. And when you hear what former officials are openly threatening to do to our republic, you will understand why they got shut down. The truth is finally emerging. So keep watching. And as we age, our body's collagen production declines, leading to visible signs of aging like wrinkles and sagging skin, crow's feet, and smile lines. By our 40s, collagen levels drop significantly and continue declining about 1% yearly. And that's why I use Ageless Multi-Collagen, 5 key collagen types from 4 premium sources, hydrolyzed for easy absorption, no clumping, no odor, just smooth blending into your morning routine. 0 GMOs, that's why RFK Jr. loves it. No artificial ingredients, no gluten, no antibiotics, no hormones, just clean collagen support. So visit healthwithgary.com for 51% off, free shipping, 60-day money-back guarantee, and lifetime health coaching. Plus, every order feeds hungry children. That's healthwithgary.com. You'll find it linked down below. So what is the big news today? Oh, USAID is back in the news. What happened? We haven't heard much about them lately. Well, guess what? USAID, Amuse posted this 7 hours ago. If you need any more proof that Elon and Trump were right to dismantle USAID, again, this is why we need to get Trump and Elon back at the table working together. If you need any more proof that Elon and Trump were right to dismantle USAID, look no further. Former USAID officials are plotting to overthrow the democratically elected government here in the United States, and they admit it openly. They write, "We unleashed these madmen on the world, and now they've come home to destroy us." He posts this. USAID officials who undermine democracies across the globe admit they're targeting democracy here in America. Former USAID officials are actively organizing a color revolution to overthrow President Trump and his administration in retaliation for his decision to shut down their agency. The former officials explain they are reapplying the skills and knowledge they built up over decades to undermine the democratically elected government here in America. They point out that it was foolish for Trump to release thousands of insurgents trained in color revolutions into the general population. Trump fired them. Now they're plotting to stop him. Yeah. Let's keep digging deeper. Mike Benz, June 12th. I'll say this again. USAID explicitly organized riots, then blocked even the CIA's top analysts from Congress from asking questions because people will die if anyone finds out.
You said people gonna die?
Yeah, Jar Jar. Here's President Trump. This was posted 6 hours ago, talking about USAID. By Rapid Response 47, the official White House media response channel.
Closed, and trade seems to be a foundation that I've been able to settle a lot of these disputes, like as an example, India and Pakistan, Kosovo, Serbia. I said, you guys are going to fight, we're not going to trade. And we seem to be quite successful in doing that. To that end, we have closed the USAID group to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, which was tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. And we're working tirelessly to forge new economic opportunities involving both the United States and many African nations. There's great economic potential in Africa, like few other places in many ways. In the long run, this will be far more effective and sustainable and beneficial than anything else that we can be doing together.
We have closed USAID to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. But now they are coming back. Here is Senator Eric Schmidt. So going back to the Muse post. He was quote tweeting Senator Eric Schmidt. He's quoting Senator Eric Schmidt. Senator Eric Schmidt, official count of United States Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri. Quote, if you stop letting us run America, we'll start a color revolution and overthrow your democratically elected government. These people are making the case for their own firing better than we ever could. Posted July 7th, 2025. Trump fired them. Now they're plotting to stop him. Former USAID and State Department officials worried about the future of democracy in America say they're actively organizing to resist Trump inside and outside the government. Now, this is going to be hard for you to read along, so I will read it to you. These are the images that he attached to his post. Some of the democracy-building experts President Trump fired this year from the U.S. Agency for International Development and State Department are now reapplying the skills and knowledge they built over decades to undermine Trump's power. For years, these officials were stationed across the globe, actively supporting opposition movements in autocratic nations. Now they've got time, a network of former colleagues, and a growing sense of moral indignation. Think about that. All these people just got fired. They're pissed. They know how to overthrow governments. And what better use of their time, because they got a lot of free time now, than a revenge mission against President Trump for firing them. It's like a shadow CIA. Quote, take it from those of us who worked in authoritarian countries. We've become one, said a currently employed federal official who spoke to Notice on a condition of anonymity. They were so quick to disband AID, the group that supposedly instigates color revolutions, but they've done a very foolish thing. You've just released a bunch of well-trained individuals into your population. If you kept our offices going and had us play solitaire in the office, it might have been safer to keep your regime. Do you see what this is? This is a current employed federal official. I mean, listen to what he says. Trump and Elon did a foolish thing. You released a bunch of well-trained individuals into your population. If you kept our offices going and had us play solitaire, you might be able to keep your regime. Listen to that threat. The former official tells Notice they're holding workshops on a tactic called non-cooperation. They're building a network of government workers willing to engage in even minor acts of rebellion in the office, and they're planting the seeds of what they hope will become a nationwide general strike. Now, we saw this before in the first Trump administration. Members of the bureaucracy, slow-walking policy, taking time to execute the president's vision. But this is something much, much, much worse. You have fired federal employees from USAID. They have a chip on their shoulder, and they've got an axe to grind, and they're well educated on how to overthrow governments. And they're going to turn that education and that action right back on the very government that they used to work for and the administration that fired them. The former officials tell Notice they're holding workshops on a tactic called non-cooperation, and they're building a network of workers willing to engage in minor acts of rebellion. See, these all, imagine, if you have one person doing a minor act of rebellion is one thing. But when you have a coordinated effort of hundreds, if not thousands, it could create severe bottlenecks for the America First policy to proceed. Some of the informal network of Trump opponents are sharing an old CIA pamphlet with the allies who still work with the government it's called Simple Sabotage. So, did you hear what I said? from this article, they are using CIA. I just said it. It's like a CIA shadow government, shadow actions. But they're actually, yes, right here. I didn't read this yet. They're using an old CIA pamphlet. They're using CIA tactics. Widespread practice of simple sabotage will harass and demoralize enemy administration and police, it says. The saboteur may have to reverse his thinking. Where he formerly thought of keeping his tools sharp, he should now let them grow dull. Surfaces that formerly were lubricated now should be sanded. Normally diligent, he should now be lazy and careless. That is what Senator Eric Schmidt just posted, and Amuse amplified it, and it landed on my desk, and now you're learning about this. What about George Soros? Where's he been? Where's all his money? What about all those riots that just erupted all across the country? How much of Soros' money was behind that? On June 11th, this was posted. George Soros received $260 million from USAID, the number one sponsor of terror on the planet. That's what Real Robert calls them. And used the funds to spread chaos, incite riots, promote open borders, topple governments, promote terrorism, and destroy justice systems around the world, including here in the United States, all while profiting without spending a single penny of his own. All uncovered by Elon Musk.
Hungarian Donald Trump claims Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros is responsible for interfering in the political landscape of many countries. The account claims that Soros used a hefty $260 million from USAID to spread chaos, change governments, and pursue personal gain in countries such as India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Ukraine. Now, this comes as the Trump administration continues to freeze USAID's budget, describing its initiatives as misaligned with American interests and accusing them of destabilizing global peace.
Well, many ideas, but look, he's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money, with the money. I'd like to see what the kickbacks are.
Donald Trump claims Hungary.
Now let's go to Mike Benz. I love this guy. He's always uncovering deep connections. Here he is, June 12th. I'll say it again. He says, USAID explicitly organized riots and blocked even the CIA's top analysts and Congress from asking questions because people will die if anyone finds out.
You said people gonna die?
U.S. secretly created Cuban Twitter to stir unrest.
Hoping it could use to organize smart mobs. Yeah. These are literal mobs, BLM style mobs. Now, I'm just going to read this here for a second. McSpeeden was one of the guys running this. He worked for USAID's Office of Transition Initiatives.
Okay, so we're going to continue this. It's only about a minute long. But what I'm trying to show you here, I'm painting a picture of what these people are capable of, what they have done, and now what they're doing by turning their target on the United States of America and the Trump administration.
U.S. secretly created Cuban Twitter to stir unrest. And
hoping it could use to organize smart mobs. Yeah. These are literal mobs, BLM style mobs. Now, I'm just going to read this here for a second. McSpeeden was one of the guys running this. He worked for USAID's Office of Transition Initiatives. Now, transition means government overthrow.
You got to watch that word these days, transition. Yeah, it means a few things.
In 2009, a report by congressional researchers warned that the Office of Transition, and again, this is not a CIA division. This is a USAID division for regime change, for toppling governments, through organized political warfare, mobilizing the unions to take to the streets, mobilizing boycotts and shutdown of roads and transportation systems and hospitals and schools. And then it goes on to say, okay, we were told, we couldn't even be told in broad terms what was happening at USAID. because people will die, said Fulton Armstrong, who worked for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Before that, he
You
was
said
the
people
U.S.
gonna
intelligence
die?
community's most senior analyst on Latin America, advisor for Bill Clinton. So he was the top guy at CIA at the analyst division on all of Latin America, and even he can't get access to this secret operation being run out of USAID.
U.S. secretly created.
Let's keep going. Mike Benz, how USAID organizes riots with humanitarian relief funds and then lies to Congress about it, then blocks Congress from asking questions because people will die if Congress finds out.
I had done it, he would have had to have signed off on it. But if they run it through USAID, then they can say, oh, it went rogue.
But what if, hold on a second, if a CIA person doesn't even like walk into the USAID office, but there's a phone call that's made there or anything or an email or something, isn't that technically traceable back to them? And therefore it's like, well, this does fall under your purview?
Well, only if it's subpoenaed.
Really?
And this is another issue. You can't get anything out of USAID. In fact, I wonder if they say this in this article.
U.S. secretly created Cuban Twitter to stir unrest.
Hoping happening at USAID because people will die, said Fulton Armstrong, who worked for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Before that, he was the U.S. intelligence community's most senior analyst on Latin America, advisor for Bill Clinton. So he was the top guy at CIA at the analyst division on all of Latin America, and even he can't get access to this secret operation being run out of USAID. And again, the whole thing works because it's a so-called independent agency. So even though it only exists to serve the State Department, if the Office of Inspector General says this is too sensitive, oversight is not allowed to know this, because if it's out of oversight, our people in Cuba will die. Our people in Pakistan will die. Our people in the Democratic Republic of Congo will die. It all has to be kept in-house. There is much more oversight of the Central Intelligence Agency than there is at USAID, which also allows people at CIA, if they can't get presidential approval, they'll work with their USAID friends. At the State Department, if you want to run a CIA operation, but you don't think you can get approval at the National Security Council, USAID isn't on the National Security Council. Just place the phone call, as you said, and you'll see these networks completely overlap at every level, and they're interchangeable jobs. You get your job at USAID by coming up either through a State Department or aid-funded NGO, or you're working as the assistant secretary for Western Hemisphere, and then you'll go straight to USAID from there. Obama.
So do you see what there's reason for this context? Because now the weapons of USAID have been trained on the Trump administration. It's happening right now. And now you know. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So what is this? This is treason hiding behind humanitarian labels. That's what it is. USAID wasn't spreading democracy. It was manufacturing chaos with your money. $260 million to Soros organizations. Riots funded like summer block parties. Mike Benz exposing how they blocked their own government from investigating because exposure would literally get people killed.
You said people gonna die?
I mean, think about that. A taxpayer-funded agency so dirty that sunlight would cause casualties. Now, these same officials openly threaten a color revolution on American soil if their power gets challenged. And they're not even hiding it. Senator Schmidt has the screenshots, and the evidence is overwhelming. They turned the same weapons used to topple foreign governments against us, to topple President Trump. So here's my question. Should everyone involved in USAID's domestic operations who are involved in this, should they face treason charges? Drop a yes or no in the comments below. And Patriots, show where you stand with Next News merch. Maybe they should go to Alligator Alcatraz. What do you think? Well, we have a t-shirt for that. You can find it at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, because when your government funds revolution, resistance becomes duty.